Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, or Dicastery, however you say it, gave a wide-ranging presentation, right? From the messages at Medjugorje being accepted as edifying texts, that's a quote, that can instill a beautiful spiritual experience, another quote, even if there is, quote, no certainty that they are from Our Lady. Now imagine if I claimed falsely that Mary had been appearing in my breakfast cereal and giving me messages, and then because of that, loads of people started making pilgrimages to my place, and they started becoming much more devout, and they went to mass more regularly and went to confession and prayed a lot more. It would still be a horrendous thing that I'd lied about. So if they're saying, well, they're not really sure if Medjugorje is legitimate or not, but lots of nice positive things come from it, so therefore go ahead, feel free to go there, I just think that's a terrible thing to say. You've either got to say, look, we genuinely think this could be true, it's very much worthy of belief. And that's what it kind of would have been before. That was what the #1 rating was. Now, #1 means there's no obstacles and there's loads of nice positive things happening because of it, even though we're not sure if it's supernatural, and it may well not be. Because in this presentation, Cardinal Fernandez did list a whole bunch of things that are problematic about Medjugorje. And then despite that, he said, because of the spiritual fruits, people are free to go there. So I just think it's a very cowardly way for the Vatican to give Medjugorje a rating. It's almost like they didn't want to wait any longer for some reason, so they just decided, you know what, how about changing the rating system and what it means, and then we can just give it a rating now and give it a #1. Even a #1 still doesn't mean that this is happening. So I've just realized how filthy this mic is. I'm very sorry about that. I don't like that response from the Vatican. I thought it was more meant for Garabandal because they did seem to give more ratings available, and there were more sort of negative ratings you could give, and I thought they did that specifically so they could give Garabandal a higher negative rating. But actually, no, this was to do with Medjugorje as well. They're still not completely sure if Medjugorje is true because there is a lot of stuff that's questionable in Medjugorje. Now, I was there for the second time, and my experience, I'm sad to say, wasn't positive. Like, I'm here right now disappointed in my trip over there. When I went there the first time, it was a slightly more positive experience, but I went there as part of a tour group, and there were guides there who would take you around, and those guides were generally quite friendly. And so you got this impression that this is a really nice place with friendly people. But when you're there on your own and you don't have those guides going around with you, and you just go outside of that St. James's Church area slightly, you realize people aren't that friendly over there at all. The people in the shops are not that friendly, the waiters are not that friendly, the people in the streets just wandering around are not that friendly. If Medjugorje is such a wonderful place of great peace where Mary is present, why are so many of the locals so bloody miserable? You walk around and you see these women sitting outside their shops full of religious bits and bobs, and they look miserable. And almost every single one of them is smoking like a chimney, cigarette after cigarette, looking miserable, looking depressed. How come all this peace from God and this wonderful grace with Mary being present right here in your village isn't affecting you positively? Why are you so unhappy there? Why is it only people that come from like America or somewhere else seem to feel this peace and you don't feel it? Surely these people should be a little bit happier. Like, wow, they get to live in a place where Mary's right here appearing and great graces are coming from heaven, and if you ask for things, you'll receive them. No. You also notice that there are a heck of a lot of Mercedes and BMWs driving around. Now you might say, hey, people can't get themselves a nice car, that immediately means that these apparitions are false. No, but I know that before the apparitions, this was a dirt poor village. And now after the apparitions, people are driving around in BMWs and Mercedes. That's just something that I noticed, and it's a factual thing. People before did not have BMWs and Mercedes cars, now they do after these apparitions allegedly are taking place. I don't think I've ever been so prayerful in my life. The first time I went there, it was kind of more out of curiosity to see what the place is like, to see if I witness any of the so-called signs that people have seen. This time I really did go there to be prayerful, and I prayed a heck of a lot. I prayed the full rosary daily. I prayed the Divine Mercy Chaplet daily. I went to confession twice while I was there. I went to Eucharistic adoration that I generally find very difficult, for 3 hours a day. They have it in the afternoons in their little chapel. I went there for the full thing, 3 hours a day, daily. I went to the evening programs. I tried really hard to make a connection with God, to feel in some way that yes, this is a special place. And I thought, if God really has chosen this place for some reason to give his graces, I'm going to feel something. I might not see Mary or see Jesus, but I'm going to feel that he's there, that he's giving this place his graces. And I didn't feel so much as a goosebump while I was there. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And not only that, when I was there in adoration, boy, did I see some nut jobs. Why does this place attract nut jobs? There was a person behind me who was snoring in the Eucharistic adoration. There was a very strange priest there making very strange movements, like he was in some kind of odd, weird, charismatic style trance. There was a woman there who, even though I agreed with the sentiment, she had a piece of A4 paper sellotaped to a bag with a whole bunch of text written on it about how people shouldn't be taking Holy Communion on the hand. Now, as I said, I agree with that sentiment, but when you're wandering around Medjugorje with a backpack and that sellotaped to it, I just think you're a little bit crazy. Another thing, and I know this isn't maybe the norm for Medjugorje, but I was unlucky enough to go there while we had loads of Irish gypsies there. I'm not sure if you're supposed to use the term gypsy, let's say Irish travelers then. Oh my goodness. To put it in the most charitable way that I can, let's just say their presence was felt. I'm not saying they're bad people, and in a way it's good that they want to come to Medjugorje or that they just want to come to a place of pilgrimage, but sometimes when you want to just quieten down and be prayerful, you notice them, and it's very hard not to notice them. And there are a lot of them. And it seems like almost they come to this place as a tourist destination with their big families and big amounts of children running around everywhere. Also during Eucharistic adoration, where at one point there were 3 different Irish traveller kids around that chapel just sleeping, just lying on the floor or lying on chairs. It certainly put a little bit of a dampener on the experience. Something else I really want to talk about, and this is probably going to be rather unpopular with people who like him, but I think that the chaplain to English-speaking pilgrims over there, Father Leon, is just not a very nice person. Now, that isn't to say that I think he's a bad priest. I'm not going to make such a statement because I don't think he's a bad priest per se, in the sense that he doesn't teach any heresy, and in fact, he's very much against heresy. He gives good sermons and he gives good talks before the Mass begins. But when it comes to dealing with people, he is atrocious. He avoids people like the plague. He is in no way approachable. Now again, you may say, well look, you've got to understand the guy. Pilgrims go there and they start swarming around him and he just wants to be left alone. He wants people to focus on Jesus and Mary and not on him. Dude, you give a talk every week about how you came here once before you were a priest and saw Mary up on the mountain, and then later on when you were in the church, she started speaking to you and having a conversation with you. You've basically made yourself one of the seers. And just like people go and they want to see the seers, you're now one of them. You're like the 7th seer. So people want to see you and they want to talk to you. And I know that maybe isn't the thing they should be doing, but it's going to happen. It's how people are. They're fascinated by you. So don't be surprised that they want to come up to you. You know, I remember reading a book about Father Slavko Barbaric, who used to be a priest there. And there was a passage in there talking about how he would always find time for people. Even when he didn't have that time, he would always find time for them. Father Leon is most certainly not like that. He does not give people any of his time unless he thinks they're dying or something. In fact, I'm one of the people that had a bit of a negative experience in that regard. I saw him walking along. He was on his own at the time. He wasn't surrounded by people. I went up to him and I asked him if at any point, it didn't have to be in that moment, he had a little bit of time to chat with me because I had a few things about our faith that I wanted to talk to him about. And he basically told me he didn't have any time and that unless I was dying or I was sick, he had no time. He just didn't have time. And then he said, God bless, and wandered off. So That's the approachableness of Father Leon. Somebody comes up to him, a pilgrim comes up to him, wants to talk about the faith. And it's not like I was going to be sitting with him for hours, and he didn't have any time for me. So there we are. That's Father Leon for you. Not very friendly, not very approachable. And guess what? I'm sure he doesn't care that I think that about him. He even says it during his talks when he goes through what happened to him and how he saw Mary. He says if you don't believe him, he doesn't care. Well, guess what? If you don't like the fact that I'm criticizing him, I don't care either. And once again, for anyone who's his parishioner or anyone who likes him, not saying he's a bad priest. I'm not critiquing him from a theological standpoint. I just think he's very poor at dealing with people. And another thing I want to mention is about these miracles that allegedly happen there, right? So I don't know if you've ever noticed, and this doesn't just go for Medjugorje, but it goes for anywhere really. People that normally get healed tend to get healed of a certain section of things. But there are certain things that people never seem to get healed of. For instance, have you ever heard a story of somebody without any limbs being prayed over by people in a special place, maybe like Medjugorje, and suddenly they got all their limbs? Or have you heard of a midget going to Medjugorje or somewhere else where there are supposed to be special graces coming from God and praying desperately to be a normal-sized person, and then wham! There they are. Suddenly they're like 6 foot tall and their prayer was answered. No, those things never happened. The things people get healed from are usually very similar. So sometimes it will be a pain that someone has in a certain part of their body that suddenly appears to not be there anymore. Or sometimes it will be even something as drastic as cancer, where it suddenly seems to vanish and disappear without trace. But we do know that when a person has positive emotions, those positive emotions can affect the physical body. So maybe sometimes when someone's gone to a place where they think they've received healing or think they will receive healing, and they start to think a lot more positively, that somehow affects their body and the body is able to fight off the cancer or whatever problem it is they have. But certain things just don't seem to ever get healed. And again, as I said, that's not just for Medjugorje, that's for anywhere. So that makes me suspicious of these healings and how legitimate they are. Because I know people have said that they've had healings in Medjugorje. I'm going to make the statement right here. I do not intend to go there again. I'm done with it. I don't care about it anymore. I haven't felt any graces when I've been there. I felt nothing whatsoever. I've seen the bad side of it. I think there's a lot of dodginess going on around there. I, like the Vatican, I'm not going to make some kind of ultimate judgment on it. I don't get to do that. It could well be true. But if it is true, and if there is something supernatural going on over there, it isn't for me. Because when I've been there, I've felt nothing, not so much as the slightest touch of God in any way in my heart or in my soul. And so I do not want to return there anymore. If you like to go there and it does something for you, great. I'm not discouraging you. But anyway, folks, that is pretty much all I have to say about that. Last time I recorded a bunch of footage to put in the video. This time I didn't do it. I just wanted to go, like I said, and I just wanted to pray, be very prayerful and see what would happen and see if I'd want to go back there again. And it turns out that I don't. So I'm not taking the experience away from you if you've had a positive one there, but I haven't. And if you're a bit iffy about it or if you're unsure about it, I can understand you a lot more now. People say it's a very prayerful place and a very peaceful place, and of course it would be. Just like if you went to any other place of pilgrimage, it's going to be prayerful and it's going to be peaceful. You can do that anyway. You don't have to do it in Medjugorje. The difference is that people here believe something is going on right now in Medjugorje, and maybe that's why they think they can feel something. There are a heck of a lot of people who think they feel things, but I think they convince themselves they feel things. So they go, oh, they can feel that Jesus is present right now or that he's telling them to do this or that. No, you don't. You've just told yourself that. You've just gone a bit crazy. You've gone a bit charismatic mad. And that's what you seem to be thinking now. It's not hard to do, but if you're a little bit more level-headed and you're like, no, you're not going to convince yourself of any of that. You're going to wait and see if something actually happens, and nothing does. Then you go, okay, nothing happened. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, I am done with Medjugorje. That was it. That was that trip where I was like, I'm going to decide now if I want to come back here on a regular basis or if I'm finished with it. I didn't want to be finished with it. I would have quite happily gone there again, but sadly, the impression I got was a very negative one. And if you were offended by anything I said, I honestly don't care. It's my opinion. I get to have it. Go for it. Go there if you want to go. Don't go if you don't want to go. Thanks for watching the video. Have yourselves a blessed day.